My hands are shaking so violently I can barely hold my phone. The security footage is crystal clear. There's my sister Penelope, in my bed, with my husband Rafael. But that's not even the worst part. Scattered across my nightstand are bank statements with my forged signature. Property deeds. Business contracts. They're not just sleeping together, they're stealing my entire life, piece by piece. The timestamp shows this was recorded yesterday. While I was at my mother's funeral, grieving, they were here. Planning. Laughing. Destroying everything I built with my own hands. My throat burns. I can taste copper in my mouth from biting my tongue so hard. The hotel room walls feel like they're closing in, and I can hear my heartbeat pounding in my ears like thunder. Rafael's voice echoes from the recording. Once we drain the business accounts, we'll file for divorce. She'll be left with nothing. Penelope giggles, that same giggle I heard every Christmas morning growing up. My vision blurs. Not from tears. From rage. I've been playing the fool for 8 months while they systematically destroyed me. Every client dinner. Every girl's night out. Every I love you was a lie designed to keep me blind while they robbed me blind. My finger hovers over Rafael's contact. I could call him right now. Scream. Cry. Beg. Fall apart like they expect me to. But something ice-cold settles in my chest instead. Something that whispers a different plan. They think they've won because I trusted them. They think I'm weak because I loved them. They have no idea what I'm capable of when someone takes everything from me. 6 months ago, I thought I had everything figured out. My marketing agency was thriving. We'd just landed 3 major Seattle tech companies as clients. Every morning, I'd wake up in our Capitol Hill brownstone to the smell of Rafael's coffee and the sound of him humming while he sketched building designs at the kitchen table. "Good morning, beautiful," he'd say without looking up, and I'd kiss the top of his head, breathing in his familiar cedar cologne. We had our routine down to an art. He'd make breakfast while I checked emails. We'd share the newspaper, him reading architecture reviews while I scanned business headlines. Our life felt solid. Predictable in the best way. Penelope had been staying with us for 2 months by then. After another messy breakup, her third that year, she'd shown up at our door with 2 suitcases and that wounded puppy look that always worked on me. "I just need to get back on my feet, Anna," she'd said, tears in her green eyes. "You're the only person I trust." How could I say no? She was my baby sister. Growing up, it was always me protecting her from Dad's drinking, me helping her with homework, me bailing her out of whatever trouble she'd stumbled into. Old habits die hard. I gave her the guest room and a part-time job at my agency doing social media coordination. She was actually good at it, creative, intuitive about what would go viral. My employees loved her energy. She'd dance around the office playing music, bringing cupcakes, making everyone laugh. "Your sister's a breath of fresh air," my assistant Marcus would say. This place was getting too serious. Even Rafael seemed happier with her around. He'd come home earlier, eager to hear about her latest dating disasters or work stories. The 3 of us would cook dinner together, drink wine on the back deck, play board games until midnight. It felt like the family I'd always dreamed of but never quite had growing up. Maybe that should have been my first warning sign, that it felt too perfect. I'd always been the responsible one, the planner, the one who held everything together. After Mom died when I was 22, I'd raised Penelope through her wild teenage years while building my business from scratch. I'd never had time for the carefree sisterhood I saw other women enjoying. But those 2 months felt different. Like I finally had both success and family, love and stability. Rafael and I were even talking about having kids. He'd started leaving architecture magazines open to articles about sustainable family homes, dropping hints about expanding our little clan. I remember thinking how lucky I was. How grateful. I'd worked so hard for so long, and finally everything was falling into place. The three of us even started planning a vacation together, a week in Tuscany for my 33rd birthday. Penelope found this perfect villa with a pool and vineyard views. Rafael was researching the best restaurants. I was already imagining us laughing over wine, taking sunset photos, creating memories we'd treasure forever. "We should do this every year," Penelope said one night as we looked at travel photos on her laptop. "The Blackwood family tradition." Rafael squeezed my hand. "I love that idea. Just the three of us." I should have noticed how he looked at her when he said it. I should have seen the way she smiled back. But I was too busy feeling grateful for what seemed like a perfect life to notice the cracks forming right beneath my feet. It was a Tuesday morning in October. I was rushing to get ready for a client presentation when I grabbed Rafael's phone by mistake. They were both charging on the kitchen counter, same black case. The screen lit up with a text notification. "Last night was incredible. I can't stop thinking about your hands on me. Delete this. P." My blood turned to ice. "P. Penelope." I stared at the words until they blurred. My hands started trembling so badly I almost dropped the phone. This had to be a mistake. A wrong number. Anything but what it looked like. But then I saw the message thread. Dozens of texts, stretching back weeks. My vision tunneled as I scrolled up with shaking fingers. "Anna's working late again. Come to my room after she falls asleep. I love how you taste like coffee and secrets. She has no idea how good we are together." The phone slipped from my numb fingers and clattered on the granite countertop. The sound echoed through our kitchen like a gunshot. "Anna? Everything okay?" Rafael's voice drifted down from upstairs. I snatched up my own phone, my heart hammering against my ribs. "Fine. Just dropped something." My voice sounded foreign, too high, too bright. I could hear him moving around upstairs, probably getting dressed for work. Normal Tuesday morning sounds. Except nothing was normal anymore. I grabbed his phone again, desperate to prove myself wrong. Maybe I'd misread. Maybe it was someone else named P. But there were photos too. Her bare shoulder. His hand on her thigh. Intimate selfies taken in what looked like our guest bathroom. The room started spinning. I gripped the counter to keep from falling, my knuckles white against the dark stone. Footsteps on the stairs. He was coming down. I deleted the message thread with trembling fingers and placed his phone exactly where I'd found it. My chest felt like it was caving in, but I forced my face into a smile as he walked into the kitchen. "Morning, beautiful." He kissed my cheek, the same kiss as always. His lips felt like poison. "Where's Penelope?" The words tumbled out before I could stop them. "Still sleeping, I think. She got in pretty late last night." His tone was casual, but something flickered in his eyes. "Why?" "No reason. Just wondering." But I wasn't wondering anymore. Now I knew. I canceled my Portland business trip at the last minute. Something in my gut wouldn't let me leave town, not with those text messages burning in my memory. Instead, I told them I was going and drove to a coffee shop 6 blocks away, watching our house from the window. At 10:47 a.m., Rafael's car pulled out of our driveway. He was supposed to be at the construction site all day. At 11:15 a.m., he was back. With flowers. My hands shook as I watched him walk up our front steps with a bouquet of red roses, the same roses he used to bring me when we were dating. My roses. Our flowers. Now for her. I sat in that coffee shop for 3 hours, my untouched latte growing cold, watching my life implode through a window. At 2:30 p.m., I couldn't take it anymore. I used my spare key to slip in through the back door, my heart pounding so loud I was sure they'd hear it. The house was quiet except for soft music drifting down from upstairs. Jazz. The same playlist Rafael always put on when we made love. Each step up the stairs felt like walking toward my own execution. The guest room door was closed, but I could hear them through the thin wood. Penelope's breathy whispers. Rafael's low groans. The unmistakable rhythm of betrayal. My legs gave out. I collapsed against the hallway wall, my chest caving in like someone had reached inside and crushed my ribcage with their bare hands. But then I heard voices. Clear voices. When should we tell her? Penelope's voice, clearer now. After the transfer goes through. Once we have control of the business accounts. Rafael's voice was cold, calculating. Nothing like the warm tone he used with me. She trusts me completely. Yesterday she signed those documents without even reading them. She actually thanked me for helping with the paperwork. My blood turned to Arctic water. What documents? What paperwork? The Tuscany trip is perfect timing, Rafael continued. We'll be out of the country when she discovers the accounts are empty. By the time she gets back, we'll have disappeared. Penelope giggled, that same innocent laugh I'd heard a million times growing up. Poor Anna. She always was too trusting. Remember how easy it was to convince her to let me handle the social media accounts? She handed over her business passwords like I was doing her a favor. The hallway floor felt like it was dissolving beneath me. This wasn't just an affair. This was a calculated destruction of everything I'd built. 8 months of planning, Rafael said. Worth every second of pretending to love her. Pretending. 8 months of pretending. Every I love you. Every kiss. Every time he held me while I cried about work stress or family problems, all of it was lies. Performance. A con game designed to keep me docile while they systematically stole my life. My vision blurred, but not from tears. From pure, white-hot rage. I pressed my ear closer to the door, my hands curled into fists. What about the house? Penelope asked. Already mortgaged. Twice. I forged her signature last month. She'll lose everything, the business, the house, her savings. All of it will be ours. The roses. He'd bought those roses with my own money, stolen from my own accounts, to give to my sister in my own house. I backed away from the door on trembling legs, each breath feeling like swallowing glass. They'd been planning this for months. While I worried about Penelope's well-being, gave her a job, opened my home, she was plotting my destruction. While I planned our future, Rafael was planning my ruin. I made it to the kitchen before my knees buckled completely. I gripped the counter where I'd found those first texts, where this nightmare began. But something strange was happening to the pain. It was crystallizing, hardening into something sharp and cold. They thought I was weak. They thought I was stupid. They were about to learn how wrong they were. I drove aimlessly for 6 hours, my hands gripping the steering wheel so tight my knuckles went white. The city blurred past, normal people living normal lives, completely unaware that my world had just detonated. I pulled into a gas station and caught my reflection in the side mirror. My face was marble pale, my eyes red-rimmed and hollow. I looked like a ghost of myself. The hotel clerk smiled politely as I checked in under a fake name, Sarah Williams, paying cash. Business or pleasure, she asked. Business, I whispered, because destroying my life was apparently their business now. Room 412 became my prison for the next 4 days. I turned off my phone after the 15th call from Rafael asking where I was. Let him panic. Let him wonder if I'd discovered their plan. I ordered room service and barely touched it. I took scalding showers that left my skin raw and red, trying to wash away the feeling of contamination. Every memory felt poisoned now. Our first kiss. Our wedding day. The night he proposed on the Space Needle, tears in his eyes as he promised to love me forever. All lies. Every single moment, a calculated performance. The worst part wasn't even the affair. It was the business documents. Those papers Penelope had me sign to help streamline operations, they were authorizations. Transfer orders. She'd been positioning herself to drain my accounts while playing the grateful little sister. I'd built that agency from nothing. 16-hour days, 7 days a week for 8 years. While other women my age were dating and traveling and living carefree lives, I was networking at industry events, staying up until 3 a.m. perfecting client presentations, sacrificing everything for my dream. And they were stealing it. Not just taking my money, erasing my entire life's work like it meant nothing. On the third day, I caught myself staring at the pills in my travel makeup bag. Just Ambien, but there were enough. The thought terrified me because for a split second, it didn't feel terrifying at all. It felt like relief. That's when I knew I had to get out of that room. I forced myself to eat something. Shower. Put on real clothes instead of the same pajamas I'd been wearing for days. I looked in the bathroom mirror and practiced smiling until my face didn't look like a corpse. Hi, I'm Anna. Everything's fine. Just been busy with work. My reflection stared back, unconvinced. But something else was staring back too. Something I hadn't seen before. My father's eyes. Cold. Calculating. He'd been a bastard, but he'd been a strategic bastard. And suddenly I understood why people had been afraid to cross him. They thought they'd broken me. They thought I'd crumble and disappear, leaving them free to enjoy their stolen fortune. They'd forgotten that I'd survived my father's alcoholic rages. I'd survived my mother's death. I'd survived building a business in a male-dominated industry where men twice my age tried to dismiss me in every meeting. I'd survived worse than Rafael Morales and my pathetic sister. I pulled out my laptop and started making lists. Bank accounts. Business partnerships. Property deeds. Legal contacts. Every asset they thought they could steal, every document they'd forged, every lie they'd told. If they wanted to play games with my life, fine. But they were about to learn that I played to win. The pain was still there, sharp and constant like a knife between my ribs. But underneath it, something cold and patient was growing. Something that whispered about forensic accountants and private investigators and federal fraud charges. Something that reminded me that the best revenge isn't emotional. It's methodical. I returned home on Thursday evening like nothing had happened. Sorry I'm late, I called out, hanging my keys on the hook by the door. The Portland client meeting ran long. Rafael appeared in the kitchen doorway, relief flooding his face. Anna. I was worried sick. You weren't answering your phone. Dead battery, I lied smoothly, kissing his cheek. His skin felt like ice against my lips, but I smiled warmly. Where's Penelope? Grocery shopping. She wanted to cook your favorite dinner tonight, welcome home surprise. My favorite dinner. How thoughtful of the woman systematically draining my bank accounts. That's so sweet of her. The words tasted like poison, but my voice stayed steady. Grateful, even. That night, I lay in bed listening to Rafael's breathing, watching the ceiling fan turn lazy circles in the darkness. Every instinct screamed at me to confront them, to throw their betrayal in their faces and watch them scramble for excuses. But rage is stupid. Strategy is smart. While they slept, I crept downstairs to my home office. My laptop glowed to life, and I began building my case with surgical precision. First, David Chen, the best private investigator in Seattle. Former FBI, specialized in financial crimes. I'd worked with him on a client's embezzlement case 2 years ago. He didn't ask questions, just results. I need complete surveillance on 2 subjects, I whispered into my phone at 3 a.m. Financial records, communications, movements. Everything. Second, Margaret Torres, forensic accountant. If there was money missing, she'd find every cent and trace exactly where it went. Third, James Morrison, the most ruthless divorce attorney in the state. He destroyed cheating spouses for sport, leaving them with nothing but legal bills and regret. I created new email accounts, used cash for everything, communicated only through encrypted apps. Every piece of evidence would be untraceable back to me. The hardest part was the acting. Every morning, I had to wake up and play the loving wife, the trusting sister. I cooked breakfast for the two people actively destroying my life. I laughed at their jokes. I signed more business documents Penelope brought me, knowing exactly what they were now, but always making copies first. "You're so good to help me with all this paperwork," I told her, watching her eyes shine with fake gratitude. "I don't know what I'd do without you." "That's what sisters are for," she replied, squeezing my hand. If she only knew what sisters were really capable of. David's first report arrived after 2 weeks. Photos of them together at restaurants I'd never been to. Hotel receipts charged to credit cards I didn't know existed. Bank statements showing systematic transfers from my business accounts to offshore holdings. But the most damaging evidence was their own words. David had managed to bug their phones, their cars, even the guest bedroom. I listened to hours of recordings, them planning their escape to Costa Rica, laughing about my pathetic trust, discussing which of my assets they'd liquidate first. "She's so predictable," Penelope's voice crackled through my headphones. "Still thinks we're planning that Tuscany trip for her birthday. She has no idea we'll be on a beach in Manuel Antonio by then." Rafael's laughter followed. Poor Anna. She always was too naive for her own good. I smiled in the darkness of my office, transcribing every word. Let them laugh. Let them plan their perfect escape. I was planning something too. And unlike theirs, my plan would actually work. Margaret's analysis confirmed what I suspected: they'd stolen over $300,000 so far, with plans to drain the remaining $400,000 before disappearing. But they'd made one crucial mistake: every forged signature, every fraudulent transfer, every stolen dollar left a digital trail. Evidence I was now carefully documenting for federal prosecutors. 3 more weeks. I just needed 3 more weeks to gather everything, to make the case absolutely airtight. Then they'd learn that the mouse they'd been playing with had very sharp teeth. The first victory came disguised as concern. "Honey, I've been looking at our finances," I said over breakfast, watching Rafael's coffee cup freeze halfway to his lips. "There are some discrepancies I can't figure out." Penelope's fork clattered against her plate. "What kind of discrepancies?" "Oh, probably just accounting errors. You know how messy I am with paperwork." I laughed, but my eyes stayed locked on Rafael's face. A muscle twitched in his jaw. "I've hired Margaret Torres to do a full audit. She'll sort everything out." The color drained from his face. Margaret Torres, he knew that name. He'd been at the dinner party where I'd mentioned her reputation for catching financial fraud. "Is that really necessary?" His voice was carefully casual. "I mean, we trust each other, right?" "Of course we do." I reached across the table and squeezed his hand. His palm was slick with sweat. "That's why I'm not worried. Margaret will probably find some simple explanation for everything." That afternoon, I watched from my office window as they huddled together by Rafael's car, gesturing frantically. Their body language screamed panic. Good. Let them panic. The second victory was even sweeter. David had discovered their backup plan, a storage unit rented under fake names, filled with my stolen artwork, jewelry, anything valuable they could quietly liquidate. I arrived at the unit before them, using the access codes David had obtained. 20 minutes to document everything, photograph serial numbers, even plant a tiny GPS tracker in my grandmother's jewelry box. When they arrived later that evening, I was already home, cooking dinner and humming. "How was your day?" I asked Rafael, noting the fresh scratches on his hands from moving boxes. "Busy. Construction site was demanding." "You should wear gloves," I said, gently touching the scratches. "I worry about you getting hurt." His eyes flickered with something that might have been guilt. For a split second, I almost felt sorry for him. Almost. The third victory happened by accident, but I seized it like a weapon. Penelope's phone rang during dinner, and she glanced at the screen before quickly declining the call. "Who was that?" I asked innocently. "Wrong number." But I'd seen the name, James, her ex-boyfriend, the one whose breakup had supposedly brought her to us in the first place. Later, while she showered, I called the number. "Hey baby," James answered. "Miss me already?" "Actually, this is Penelope's sister Anna. I think there's been some confusion about your breakup." 20 minutes later, I had the truth. There had been no breakup. James thought Penelope was on a family visit while planning their move to Portland together. He'd been sending her money for months, money she'd been pocketing while playing the victim. Even her sob story was a lie. That night, I stared at myself in the bathroom mirror. My reflection looked different, sharper, colder. More like my father than I'd ever wanted to be. Was I becoming like them? Calculating, manipulative, willing to destroy people for my own gain? But then I remembered their laughter. Their casual cruelty. The way they'd planned to leave me with nothing while they built a life on the ashes of mine. No. I wasn't becoming like them. I was becoming something they'd never expected, their equal. The fourth victory was psychological warfare. I started talking about our future, the babies we'd have, the house renovations we'd plan, the business expansion that would keep us in Seattle forever. "I've been thinking," I said one morning, "maybe we should renew our vows for our 5th anniversary. Really celebrate how strong our marriage is." Rafael's face went gray. Penelope choked on her orange juice. "That sounds wonderful," he managed. "And Penelope, you'll be my maid of honor again, right? I can't imagine doing it without my sister by my side." She nodded mutely, probably calculating how many months they'd planned to be gone by then. 3 weeks had become 2 weeks. Then 1 week. The net was tightening, and they could feel it. But they had no idea how thoroughly trapped they already were. Soon, very soon, they'd learn exactly what happens when you underestimate someone who has nothing left to lose. I chose our anniversary dinner at Canlis, the same restaurant where Rafael had proposed 3 years ago. Ironic, considering it was also where they'd been meeting for their secret dates. 43 guests. Our closest friends, business associates, and family. Everyone who mattered in our social circle, all gathered to celebrate our perfect marriage. "Thank you all for being here," I began, standing at the head table with a champagne flute in my hand. My voice was steady, calm. Almost serene. Rafael smiled up at me adoringly. Penelope raised her glass with tears in her eyes, such a devoted sister, so happy for us. 3 years ago, Rafael asked me to marry him at this very restaurant. He promised to love, honor, and cherish me. I paused, letting my gaze sweep across the room. And I believed him. A few guests chuckled, expecting a typical anniversary toast. I also want to thank my sister Penelope, who's been living with us for the past 8 months. She's taught me so much about family loyalty. Penelope beamed, raising her glass higher. I smiled back at her. Then I pressed the remote in my pocket. The restaurant's projection screen flickered to life behind me. Bank statements filled the wall, transfers, forgeries, stolen funds. The room went silent as numbers scrolled past. $50,000, $75,000, $100,000. "These are my business accounts," I said conversationally. Or rather, what's left of them. Rafael's champagne glass slipped from his fingers, shattering against his plate. The next slide showed photographs. Rafael and Penelope in hotel rooms. Kissing in parking lots. Loading my artwork into a storage unit. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Someone whispered, "Oh my God." 8 months, I continued, my voice never wavering. 8 months of stealing from me while I fed you, sheltered you, loved you. Penelope shot to her feet. Anna, this isn't what it looks like. Sit down. 2 words, but they cut like a whip. She sat. The FBI has been very interested in your offshore accounts, I said, clicking to the next slide. More bank records, more evidence. Turns out, this isn't your first time. Patricia Williams in Denver. Sarah Chen in Portland. Jennifer Ross in San Francisco. The blood drained from Penelope's face. You're serial con artists. And I'm your final victim. Rafael found his voice. Anna, please, we can explain. Explain what? How you mortgaged our house without my knowledge. How you plan to disappear to Costa Rica next week. How you called me pathetically naive while fucking in my guest room. The room was dead silent now. Our friends sat frozen, champagne glasses forgotten. I clicked the remote again. Audio began playing, their voices, crystal clear through the restaurant's sound system. She trusts me completely. Yesterday she signed those documents without even reading them. Poor Anna. She always was too trusting. Worth every second of pretending to love her. Penelope was crying now, ugly sobs that shook her whole body. Rafael stared at the table, his face ashen. The police are waiting outside, I said quietly. Federal fraud charges. Grand theft. Identity theft. Conspiracy. I set down my champagne and picked up my purse. Oh, and Rafael? I've already filed for divorce. You'll be hearing from my attorney. I walked toward the exit, my heels clicking against the marble floor in the absolute silence. Just before I reached the door, I turned back one last time. Happy anniversary, darling. The FBI agents entered as I left, badges gleaming under the chandelier light. Behind me, I could hear Penelope screaming my name, her voice cracking with desperation. But I was already gone. The headlines appeared within hours. Local architect and sister-in-law arrested in $300,000 fraud scheme. By morning, it was the lead story on 3 news stations. I watched from my hotel room as reporters crowded outside our house, my house now. Rafael's mugshot flashed across the screen, followed by Penelope's tear-streaked face being led away in handcuffs. The phone rang constantly. Friends, colleagues, reporters wanting statements. I ignored them all. The first week was brutal. Rafael's law firm dropped him immediately. The state revoked his architectural license pending investigation. His name was poison in the industry, no firm would touch him. Penelope's public defender called, begging me to consider a plea deal. She's cooperating fully, he said. Giving up her other victims, helping us build cases. Too little, too late. James, her supposed ex-boyfriend, went to the media. I've been sending her money for months, he sobbed on camera. I thought she was visiting family. She told me her sister was dying of cancer. Even their love story was a lie built on lies. The second week brought vindication. Margaret's forensic accounting recovered every stolen penny, plus damages. The federal prosecutor called it one of the most thorough fraud cases she'd ever seen. Your documentation was extraordinary, she told me. They won't see daylight for years. But the best moment came quietly, in my empty house on a Tuesday morning. I was sitting at my kitchen table, the same table where I'd discovered those first texts, when I realized something profound had shifted inside me. The constant ache in my chest was gone. The hypervigilance, the checking over my shoulder, the fear that everyone might be lying to me. It was over. I thought betrayal had broken me. Shattered me into pieces I'd never be able to reassemble. But I was wrong. Betrayal had rebuilt me. Stronger. Smarter. Unbreakable. My business was thriving again. Clients respected how I'd handled the crisis, strategic, professional, devastating but dignified. 3 new companies had signed contracts in the past month alone. "You're an inspiration," my assistant Marcus said. "Half the women in Seattle want to hire you just because of how you handled this." I'd moved out of the house, too many ghosts, into a sleek downtown condo with floor-to-ceiling windows and city views. Every morning, I woke up to sunlight and possibility instead of shadows and lies. The legal proceedings dragged on, but I didn't attend. My lawyer handled everything while I focused on rebuilding. Rafael tried to write me letters from jail. Apologies, explanations, pleas for forgiveness. I returned them unopened. Penelope's letters I burned without reading. Some betrayals don't deserve forgiveness. They deserve consequences. 3 months after that anniversary dinner, I ran into our old neighbor, Mrs. Patterson, at the grocery store. "Anna, dear, I'm so sorry about everything," she said, clutching my arm. "But you look wonderful. Stronger somehow." She was right. I caught my reflection in the store window, clear eyes, straight shoulders, genuine smile. I looked like myself again. Not the broken woman who'd discovered those texts. Not the terrified victim who'd hidden in a hotel room. Myself. But better. That night, I poured a glass of wine and stood on my balcony, watching the city lights twinkle below. Somewhere out there, Rafael was staring at prison walls. Penelope was learning that actions have consequences. And I was free. For the first time in 8 months, truly free. The pain had transformed into wisdom. The betrayal had become strength. Sometimes the best revenge isn't destroying your enemies. It's becoming someone they could never touch again. 6 months later, I'm sitting in the same hotel room where this story began. Same city view, same queen bed, same minibar humming in the corner. But everything else has changed. My hands aren't shaking anymore. My vision is crystal clear. And the woman staring back at me from the bathroom mirror isn't broken, she's bulletproof. I'm here for business this time. Real business. A Fortune 500 client wants to hire my agency after hearing how I handled adversity with such strategic precision. Adversity. That's what they're calling it now. My phone buzzes with a text from my lawyer. Penelope sentenced today. 8 years federal prison. Rafael got 12. 12 years. He'll be 51 when he gets out, his career destroyed, his reputation in ruins. She'll be 38, with a criminal record that follows her forever. I feel nothing. Not satisfaction, not sadness, not closure. Just quiet certainty that justice was served. I think about that terrified woman who sat in this room 8 months ago, trembling over security footage and bank statements. She thought her world was ending. She had no idea it was just beginning. My phone rings, another client, another opportunity, another chance to prove that some people rise from betrayal like phoenixes from ash. Anastasia Blackwood speaking, I answer, my voice strong and sure. Outside my window, the Seattle skyline gleams with promise. Somewhere in those lights is my new life, built not on trust or love or family loyalty, but on something far more reliable. My own strength. I pack my suitcase with steady hands and smile at my reflection one last time. Some stories end with forgiveness. Others end with revenge. The best ones end with rebirth.